Let's bring in Congressman Mike Gallagher, Republican of Wisconsin, former Marine Corps captain and member of the House Armed Services Committee. Great to have you. This is one thing that the Wall Street Journal wrote today in their editorial. Don't go wobbly on Ukraine now. The leader should also banish talk of giving Mr. Putin an exit ramp other than complete withdrawal from Ukraine. He can take that exit at any time, but if he refuses, then the Western goal should be to inflict as much pain as possible on Russia as a lesson to Mr. Putin and any other country that might try to conquer its neighbors. The president's going to head to Brussels on Wednesday. What do you hope to see?
Well, I hope he does everything possible to rally the West so that President Zelensky can negotiate from a position of strength. That is our job. Our job is to help Zelensky, who's doing a phenomenal job rallying support for Ukraine by continuing the supply of lethal assistance despite Putin's threat. I would also like the president to iron out the Polish MiG-29 fiasco, as well as find a way to take Slovakia up on its offer to provide Russian-made S-300s to Ukraine. And while we should be wary of escalation, we cannot allow the continual fear of escalation to dominate our thinking. I think that's why we got into this mess in the first place, because of the continual fear of provoking Putin, whether it was the administration's delay for over a year of providing lethal assistance, the Biden administration's unwillingness to impose sanctions, or that MiG fiasco. We are continually behind the curve because we are afraid of provoking Putin, and it's time we make Putin fear what we are willing to do in defense of Ukraine. Put differently, the best way to avoid World War III is by strengthening our military deterrent and investing in hard power. And that's the message I hope I hear from President Biden when he travels.
So, as I understand it, the Biden administration is drawing a line, basically saying, we'll provide Ukraine weapons to defend itself, but don't want to provide them anything that would allow some sort of incursion or invasion or an attack in Russia itself. And that's one of the reasons that they don't want to do the MiG deal with Poland. Do you reject that?
Well, yeah, I don't think anyone's suggesting the MiGs need to go after targets inside of Russia. It's merely another weapon system that allows Zelensky and his military commanders to defend themselves from Russian aggression. And I would say we have a massive amount of tools at our disposal, short of putting U.S. boots on the ground inside of Ukraine or going after Russian targets ourselves, either inside of Ukraine or obviously in Russia. One thing I think we should continue to pay more attention to is the potential role that China might play in this conflict. After all, the initial Russian blitzkrieg failed, but now the conflict is settling into attrition warfare. And for someone like Putin, who does not care about human life, attrition warfare could be a successful strategy, especially if he gets a lifeline from the Chinese. We need to make sure that we punish the Chinese if they continue to stand by their man in Moscow and support the slaughter on display in Ukraine.
You went to the place where I wanted to go. Just another point on this is this question. This is a Wall Street Journal headline. Russia failing to achieve early victory in Ukraine is seen shifting to Plan B. And they note in their piece that in Chechnya, Russian forces sought to gain control of a major city in a Russian territory that is smaller than New Jersey. In Ukraine, it's just so much bigger, right? The problem is with 44 million people, and already you had 3.5 million that have fled, a place that's larger than France. And so do you think Putin does he have a plan B? Do we know what that is? And can NATO, when President Biden goes there to deal with it, can he figure out some way to stop it?
Yeah, I think the plan B is, as I said before, attrition warfare, or perhaps he scales down his ambitions to not control all of the country, but control, effectively eastern Ukraine, as well as dominate the Black Sea by consolidating gains in the south. That would still be a devastating outcome for Ukraine and give Putin a better position with which to threaten NATO allies in the future. So, again, we need to stand strong, make sure we negotiate from a position of strength, and continue to impose costs on the Russians. And as for the China angle, reportedly, President Biden's call with Xi failed to convince the Chinese to stay on the sidelines. But the reality is they haven't been on the sidelines. They've been supporting Putin's slaughter from the beginning. They announced their endless cooperation, a friendship without limits pact right before the Olympics. This was effectively a declaration of a new Cold War against the West. We need to wake up to that reality so we can win that new Cold War.
Congressman Mike Gallagher kicking us off here on a Monday. Thank you so much. Good to see you.
Thank you.